Welcome to today's episode of Soap Thing Thoughts. This time, it's just me. I have about 12 hours before I have to get on a plane and fly back to the continental United States. This is my last video here at Incirlik Air Base in Turkey, and for this video, I think I will answer some questions from viewers and subscribers. These questions come from a video I did a couple months ago. It was a giveaway video where one of the prerequisites of being entered into that giveaway was you either had to put a comment or a question into the comment section that was compelling or interesting. And for all those who put a question into the comment section of that video, your question will be answered here today. Got the list of questions right here. So I'm just going to start from the beginning. It says, these are from Brian Harding. He asked a series of questions in the same comment. The first one is, have you ever used Semogue Mistura knots? The answer to that question is no. I actually got completely out of Semogue brushes a couple of years ago before I came out here to Turkey. The reason for that is I had some pretty serious quality control problems with Semogue brushes. They were just really poor quality knots. The handles were poor quality. I mean, for most of their brushes, their logo is put on with a sticker, and I was constantly having problems with stickers coming off, and it was just not a very confidence-inspiring experience. And so I basically was just like, to hell with Semogue, and I got rid of all my brushes and never looked back, and I don't regret any of that. So there's the answer to that question. His next question is, did you put anything in long-term storage? I'm guessing he's referring to my collection I have back in the States, which was significantly larger than the one I had here in Turkey. With that one, I've actually done a video in the past kind of showing my walk-in closet and all the shaving supplies I have set up and how I store them and things like that. Basically, what I did was I have this huge shelf that has different bins. And inside those bins is like entire like layers of shaving soap just stacked on top of each other. And for that, I basically threw a sheet over top of it to keep the dust off of it and tightened down the lids on all the shaving soaps and aftershaves so that they wouldn't so the aftershaves wouldn't evaporate and hopefully the soaps wouldn't lose all their scent. And that's it. And then I just left it the way it is. And it's been sitting there like that in my house back in the States that my wife lives in. It's been sitting there for 2 years. So everything has been just sitting there collecting dust untouched for 2 years. And what happens to it when I get back? Well, it's going to depend on what it is. A lot of it's going to get sold, to be honest with you. Is there anything you're looking forward to being reunited with? I'm guessing he's talking about shaving related stuff. You know, not really. There's a couple of razors that I would really enjoy using. Like I bought a Blackland Saber that was used, and I seem to remember really enjoying that. I didn't bring it with me here to Turkey, and I'm kind of wishing I had because I seem to remember getting really good shaves out of the Blackland Saber. It's a gem PTFE razor for those who don't know. And I left that one behind. It didn't make the cut of razors that got sent over here, well, that were brought over here in my luggage with me, and it was never sent over here after the fact. So it's been sitting there the entire time. And so there's probably a handful of razors that I didn't even remember I had that would probably be cool to use again. As far as like shaving soap scents, there's a couple of really like special ones that, you know, maybe like PAA Dab. I've got a couple tubs of that I'm looking forward to burning through. And there's some other things like little things, but for the most part, I don't miss much of what was left behind. One of the things I learned about this hobby is I don't particularly enjoy experimenting with new razors or having a wide variety of razors. I would prefer to just have a razor that sits on my sink and I just pick it up and use it every day. I want a razor like that is just consistent. I want a high quality shave, and I no longer crave a variety in my shave. And so I don't really care about scent in shaving soaps anymore. I don't really care about experimenting with new razors or trying new things. At a certain point, I think everybody in this hobby needs to learn to be content with what they have instead of constantly chasing perfection. Perfection does not exist. So I think I have reached the point where I have pretty much discovered the best shaves I will ever have, and it's time to stop searching. So I don't really miss all that much of what was left behind. There's going to be some cool stuff that I'm going to look forward to using, but as far as like stuff that I really missed, not so much. Next question is from Jason Mickelson. Jason Mickelson 6293. He had a question that was kind of mingled into a comment. He said, I really enjoyed your Evolution of Gillette cartridge razor series. However, I think there was one more razor in the series, the Gillette Labs, both heated and non-heated. So you are right and wrong. If you remember right, going back to my Evolution of Gillette cartridge razor series, in the video where I talked about the Gillette Fusion, I explicitly stated that every razor that has been released after the Gillette Fusion is basically a variation of the Fusion. So therefore, uh, it was not going to be covered in the series because it was not significant enough of a change or an evolution to merit its own video. That's the reason why you didn't see the Gillette Skin Guard, the Gillette Labs, or every other variation of the Gillette Fusion. It's all the same handle and mostly all the same razor head with maybe slight variations to how the blades are positioned and how many blades there are. And so it's just not worth covering at that point because it's basically just a Gillette Fusion with a couple of little changes made, and it's not really worth talking about. He also asked a question: if you were to come up with the ultimate Soap Thing approved newbie starter kit, what would it include and why? He says razor, brush, blade, soaps, etc. So for those of you who are wondering, I actually don't have answers to these written down. I'm just coming up with this with the answers to these questions off the top of my head. And so for a Soap Thing approved starter kit, the ultimate Soap Thing approved starter kit, here's what I would recommend. I'm thinking about this as I go. So I think a Merkur 34C is fine for a baseline razor. If I were going to recommend a starter kit that you could conceivably never evolve from, like you want one set of stuff, one set of equipment, and that's it. You're not doing anything else, and you're not going to experiment with anything else, then I would say get a Razor Mamba 70 because at least those are 316 stainless steel. It's a very smooth and easygoing shave. So there's that to think about. For the razor, yeah, I would definitely go with a either at worst a Merkur 34C, but I would honestly tell you to spend a little bit more money and get a steel razor like the Razor Mamba 70 because I think you're going to get a longer lifespan out of stainless steel razors because chrome plated zinc razors tend to have quality control problems. And unless you really baby those razors, sooner or later, they're going to just become unusable because the quality, the build quality and the materials used to make those razors is just not very good. So there's the razor. The brush, I would say go with anything AP Shave Co. Because in my personal opinion, AP Shave Co. is a phenomenal blend of all different kinds of brushes for all different price ranges. They have, really inexpensive ones that are struggling to be $20, and that those can go all the way up to $150 semi-custom or custom brushes from like Shave Mac or different high-end brush handle suppliers from like Germany. Some of them are from Canada. There's some USA made ones. Other places in Europe, Britain, sometimes will send AP Shave Co. really high-end handles and stuff like that. So you can get a wide variety of different badger and synthetic knots. AP Shave Co. does synthetic knots, in my opinion, very, very well. In fact, if I'm looking for a synthetic knot, the first place I'm going is AP Shave Co. because they do a phenomenal job with synthetic knots. Uh, and then, so like I said, you can have, all different sizes and shapes and colors and different knot sizes and things like that. And it's in, virtually any possible price range. And so whatever you want, you can pretty much find. And I think AP Shaveco does a phenomenal job with quality control. Even their cheapest handles are very nice handles that are going to last you a long time. So I would go with just anything AP Shaveco. You can pick your poison with that. For blades, as much as I don't feel comfortable telling you to use a specific blade, I think Gillette Silver Blues are fine. I think Gillette Menoras are fine. I think Lord Platinums are really good. In my opinion, if I were going to create a starter kit, I would probably take a combination of medium to mild blades and just throw them in there because I think if we're going to talk about the fact that everybody's face is different, that's going to give you the biggest variation in your shave. It's not going to be the razor, it's going to be the blades. So I think giving you just one blade would be doing you a disservice, but I would say if I were going to give somebody a set of blades, it would be medium to mild sharpness, just because I think those blades are more forgiving. For soaps, I would tell people to use just any tube cream. The tubes that like it comes out like toothpaste. And so like Palmolive, Prorazzo, even some more expensive ones like Antigua, Barbaria, De Biro, those are very user friendly. It doesn't need a bowl. You don't need to, lather on top of a hard puck of soap and get that all nasty. You can just put, a couple pea-sized dabs on the tip of your finger and wipe it against your face and then just start working it in with a brush. It's super easy, super user friendly, and they're inexpensive and they're slick because all that shaving soap is supposed to do is be slick. All this talk about like post shave feel and all this other nonsense. It's bullshit. It's complete nonsense. All that a shaving soap is supposed to do is be slick. That's it. If you want it to do anything else, that's why we have post shave products. Speaking of post shave products, if I were going to recommend an aftershave, it would probably be it would have to be an aftershave balm because if you're just starting out with this and you need a starter kit, your face isn't used to doing this. So I would say Leah aftershave balm. Pereira is an obvious one. Even like Nivea, just get yourself any aftershave balm. I would not use a splash if I were going to put together a starter kit. So that's it for that question. Shaving with Peg Leg asks, he's talking about getting out of the rabbit hole, which for those of you who don't know, over the course of the next 12, 14, even 18 months, I plan on very slowly dismissing myself from this hobby. There are a wide variety of reasons why I'm going to do it that way rather than just disappearing suddenly. And I'll probably do a separate video that's just like a one-stop, place to understand why I'm doing this. It'll just be a succinct kind of video in that way. But he's talking about me sort of getting out of the rabbit hole. He said, "What's the next rabbit hole you're going to jump into?" Well, what's going to happen after I get out of this hobby? Well, as I'm getting out of this hobby, I am simply going to reverse back to hobbies I had before this. This hobby, if I'm being honest with myself, was a COVID hobby. It directly replaced other hobbies that I had. And the longer I was in it, the more I started to miss the other hobbies I had before this one because I've had those hobbies most of my whole life versus the shaving hobby was a very new thing that was easy to do inside your house. It didn't require you to go anywhere or do anything or something like that. So what I'm actually going to do, this is a good place to announce it. I'll probably announce this a couple times, but I'm not going to talk about it that much, is yes, I'm getting out of shaving, but I'm not going to get out of YouTube because my opinion is anything that you do when you're truly alone is meaningless. It only has meaning or purpose when you share it with somebody else. So I'm going to continue making YouTube videos, and it's going to be with, like I said, hobbies that I had before this. And so there's going to be a YouTube channel that I'm jump starting this summer called Curiosity Treks. I will put a link to that in the description of this video. So for those of you who would enjoy POV hiking videos, a lot of outdoor videos where you see, state parks and waterfalls, even national parks eventually, things like that, gear reviews like watches and hiking boots and tents and backpacks and things like that. If you think you might enjoy something like that, then go ahead and subscribe to that channel. There's no content on that channel yet, but there will be soon. And Curiosity Treks is my next big plan for YouTube because I plan on getting a GoPro and just going to all these different hiking spots. And with me being up in the Adirondacks, I'm going to be stationed at Syracuse Airport. And so the Adirondacks are right there. And so you're going to be seeing a lot of that. I'm going to be doing a lot of hikes in Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania. And eventually, if the channel takes off, then it's going to expand out to nationwide. And so I have really big plans for what I'm going to do after the shaving hobby. But for the most part, I'm going back to hobbies that I had before this, which is hiking, kayaking, shooting guns and things like that, archery, even going back to that. So that's what I'm going to do, after I get out of shaving, is that's going to be the next rabbit hole, is a lot of old rabbit holes. So next question is from Dr. Zerges. I think I'm pronouncing that correct. I'm going to butcher up some of these. He said a series of questions. Actually, did he? No, he didn't. It's a single question. So his question is, what are some of my more memorable soaps? So the thing about me is the most iconic and desirable, memorable, special soaps to me always end up being soaps that get discontinued. I had a very cursed time in this hobby because almost invariably, scents that I thought were just excellent, amazing, some of the best I ever smelled, and then they get discontinued. So we're talking about stuff like PAA Dab, PAA Sakura Blue, Ariana and Evans Summer Fig, stuff like that. So it just seemed like every single time I fell in love with a scent, it would get discontinued. And he says, since you sampled so many, it would be good to get some insight on your preferred ones. Well, unfortunately, stuff that I really, really prefer is not around anymore. One of the many reasons I'm getting out of the hobby, and again, I'll touch on this in a separate video, but there's so much volatility in the shaving hobby that any soap that you fall in love with, you can't plan on it being there for very long. And so even if it's not currently discontinued, if you really fall in love with somebody, you better pick up some more pucks, because the next thing you know, you're going to snap your fingers and it's going to be too little too late. It happens all the time. You would be very surprised. Next question is from the one Bab, B-A, whatever. It says, are you getting rid of stuff because you're overwhelmed with stuff? And he said, which acquisition disorder do you find yourself more drawn to? Razors, brushes, soaps? Let's talk about the first question first. Let me make sure I'm reading this right. Are you getting rid of stuff because you are overwhelmed with stuff? Yes and no. I would say the biggest reason I am getting rid of stuff is because I just no longer value it. Like, I really don't care about scent. I really don't care about soap base. I think the idea that people are going to say that one soap base is night and day better than another is just outrageous. The more I shave, the more I think that practically all soaps are plenty slick enough. And let me put it to you this way. It's like having a speedometer on your car that goes to 300 miles an hour. You are never, ever going to go that fast. So why do you need a speedometer that goes to 300 miles per hour? I feel the same way about shaving soap bases. Is it gets to a point where it's just like, why are artisans wasting their time making soaps that are so much better than the last one when they're already so good that it doesn't even matter? Like it's a waste. It's a complete waste of everybody's time and money. Uh, so the reason I'm getting rid of stuff is because I just don't care anymore. I really don't care what the next razor feels like on my face. I really don't care what the next shaving soap smells like. All I care about is that I get a high quality shave, and I'm never going back to cartridge razors and Gillette Foamy or Barbasol ever again because I've learned enough not to do that. And so I am going to simply go to a high quality shave with a low variety. That's just the reality of my situation. Which acquisition disorder did I find myself more drawn to? I think it varied because there was a time where I was just binge buying brushes like you wouldn't even believe, and then I would be on a binge of like I got to have this razor and I got to have that razor. But overwhelmingly, I think soap was the biggest acquisition disorder. And I think it's easy for it to be that way. And I think that's where most people are because shaving soap is the cheapest. I mean, you can get legacy soaps still for $10. Like even a lot of artisan shaving soaps are still, 15, $16 or less for a puck. And so it is really easy to acquire a lot of stuff that takes up a lot of space very quickly with regard to shaving soap versus a brush. It is way too easy for a brush to be 85, 95, $100. $50 for on the low end if you're talking about a good brush. Uh and then razors are $40 and up to the sky. A lot of brushes are 95, $100, 80, 90, $100, $200, 3, 4, 5, 600 in some cases. Like razors are expensive. Like, especially if you're talking about like haircut and shave or Wolfman, some of these outrageous ones that are like 5, 6, $700. It's insane. So I think the logical acquisition disorder is soap, just because it's so cheap and easy to buy a lot of it. And it's really easy to slowly accumulate just way too much of it to the point where it's just like, you'll never use any of this in your lifetime. So, I mean, you're not going to use it all in your lifetime. Let's put it that way. Okay, next question is from Vaughn B 1244. Have you already found your Goldilocks razor or are you still looking? I don't think any such razor exists. I think anybody who finds their goat razor, their greatest of all time, uh, is content with the fact that there's no use in searching any further because perfection does not exist. Even the best razors I have ever used that will never ever leave my shave den, even those I have problems with them. There is no razor that I think is perfect. Every razor has a problem with it. It's just a question of, is it something you're willing to deal with, or is it bad enough that you need to piff it along and get it out of your shave den? So I would say that I have for the most part found all the razors that I need to get more than satisfying shaves for the rest of my life. But I would say perfection does not exist. I would say Goldilocks does not exist. Every razor you ever use is going to have a problem with it. It's just a question of, is it a problem you're willing to deal with? Next question. So before I move on to the next question, what are my Goldilocks razors? Well, I think the RazoRock Mamba 70 is just it's a great all around razor. I mean, if you're looking for something aggressive, that's not what you want, but I don't need an aggressive razor, so the Mamba 70 works fine for me. I think the Yates Titanium America razor has been a surprisingly phenomenal shaver for me. Like, it's just in it when I'm looking for a razor to shave with, I want something that I can shave with and not have to pay attention. Like, I don't want to concentrate on my shave. I want to have an autopilot shave where I can think about other things, because when I'm standing in front of the mirror shaving, that is thinking time for me. So I really think that uh, the best razors for me, those quote unquote Goldilocks razors, those are razors that are mild and easy to shave with. And I would say the Yates America razor has fit the Goldilocks category for me. I still don't like that word, but I think to answer your question directly, it's got to be the Yates America razor. Okay. Ready Land asks, have you tried any of the premium razors from Carbon Shaving? I have not. I have not tried carbon shaving. I almost bought a carbon titanium because at the time I really wanted a titanium razor, and Yates kept swearing up and down that they're going to bring out titanium razors, and they were dragging their feet on it, and for like a year and a half they wouldn't do it. And so I got this close to being pissed off at Yates and just deciding, well, screw you guys then. I'm going to go get a titanium razor from somebody else because I had been waiting long enough. But then Yates finally came around and started introducing titanium versions of their stainless steel razors. And it kind of walked me back from the precipice. Otherwise, I would have bought a carbon titanium, was my next, a carbon mild titanium razor. What would have been my next purchase. But I've had premium razors from, what is it? Charcoal Goods, what's the other one? Timeless Razors, Haircut and Shave. Earlier on in my wet shaving hobby, I was buying, selling, and trading very expensive high-end razors quite a lot. And I don't think there's a place for them in my shave den anymore just because they're unnecessarily expensive. Once Yates proved that they could charge less for very good razors because they own their own machines, they own the means of their own production. And so they can afford to charge $180, $190, $200 when a lot of other companies that are contracting this stuff out are charging, in some cases, double that, 300, 350, 400, 500 fucking bucks for a razor. I'm looking at you, Haircut and Shave, and to some degree even Blackland. Like this crap is nonsense. So I think Yates really blew the lid off of that because they demonstrated that it doesn't have to be that expensive. And so that's why I foot stomp Yates so much. Isn't because I really think their razors are that good. I mean, they're some of them are very good shavers for me, but I like their razors because it is very high quality stuff. They're very high quality razors that are not expensive compared to a lot of other razors. They're I don't want to say abnormally, but they are uniquely inexpensive compared to other razors of similar types and the same build material. Let's put it that way. The enabled shaver says, "What gear is your favorite and that you will be keeping?" That's his first question. So I'm not going to be keeping much that's artisan related. I might keep like a handful of like 20 soaps that are discontinued that I'll probably never see again if I were to get rid of them. But for the most part, like I said, that's going to be like PAA's Dab, A&E Summer Fig. There's probably a couple other ones that I can't think of off the top of my head that I'm going to wish I thought of later. But for now, it's going to be mostly discontinued stuff that I would kick myself if I didn't get to smell it for a while after this. Do I have any other takeaways from the project? I do, and I think the biggest takeaway from the Soap Thing project is when I suddenly realized I don't like collecting things. And that should have been something that I already knew about myself because this hobby was out of character for me. Up until this shaving hobby, I was not one to just incessantly collect things just aimlessly. And so I should have known sooner or later that this this hobby was going to bug me having all this stuff. So that's the biggest takeaway from the project is if it's not already in your nature to collect things, like if you don't already collect action figures, stamps, coins, vintage radios, whatever, and you get into a wet shaving hobby that is all about collecting things and acquisition disorder and retail therapy, you're going to find yourself sooner or later going, this is out of character for me and this doesn't feel right. Um, did I get out of my comfort zone by putting myself out there, which helped me in other areas of my life? Not really. Because even when I started doing, if we're talking about like the act of doing shave videos, like shaving on camera and then putting it on YouTube for the whole world to see, I already didn't have stage fright. I already had no problems at all speaking in front of a large crowd of people. Uh, in fact, I've had to do it in my career before. I've had to give, like safety briefings and speeches and stuff like that in front of large crowds of people, some of whom were pretty high up on the food chain, and they were of consequence. They were consequential people, and it just didn't bother me. Like, I don't care what rank you are in the military. I don't care how important you are. I'm going to say what I think I need to say, and I'm not gonna fear your presence while doing it. Uh, so I would say that the only thing that this hobby really helped is it helped me learn how to edit videos and just use video editing software, and it helped me learn how to use cameras to record because I don't use a my phone to record anything. I use either a webcam, which is what I'm using right now, or when I'm doing my shave videos, I use an actual dedicated camera that is just for that. And so I had to learn how to use cameras by the seat of my pants. I had to learn how to use video editing software by the seat of my pants. I had to teach myself how to do all this stuff. And so I am very thankful that this hobby taught me how to do that because now when I move on to this other YouTube channel that I'm jump starting, I will pretty much be able to take all the lessons I learned from this and apply it to that just right out of the gate. Eric Valenstein 7394 asks, what's your biggest regret in wet shaving, or is there something you haven't tried that has been on your list for a long time? Yeah, I mean, there's been a variety of limited edition or just like single run shaving soaps that I wish I would have bought, but I was always resentful towards that kind of thing. Like my attitude towards wet shaving always has been, as far as like shaving soaps and like availability, either it's a good enough scent for you to always make it, or it's not good enough for you to ever make it. I get so sick of these seasonal, like I understand seasonal shaving soaps a bit more because who wants an apple cider scent in the hot balls of summer? Like it's just not what people are doing. So I can understand that to a degree, but just like limited edition, like we're making X amount of soaps and then we're not doing anything else. Like Shave Dad, that dude drives me nuts because like everything I see, it's just like, well, good luck ever getting it again. It's like screw that. Like I'm not doing that. It's like, what if I actually like it? Well, too bad you're never getting it again. Like that's bullshit. It's just nonsense. Uh, so but I do find myself wishing I had gotten certain scents because then like for example, I bought oodles of samples. I got so many samples for in the 2 years that I was here in Turkey that it's frankly insane. Uh but some of them ended up being samples of discontinued scents, and then I would smell it for the first time because it was buried in the bottom of a box somewhere, and I'd be like, "Oh my God, I wish I had paid attention to this sooner because this smells amazing." Um, so there's a lot of things that I didn't try that I wish I would have. Uh, my biggest regret is getting rid of razors that I should have kept. Like I had stainless steel charcoal goods razors that are no longer are being made, and that it would be practically impossible to get on the used market. And even if you could, the prices would be through the roof because people are assholes, and for some reason, people think that whenever something's discontinued, that means it needs to be 4 times more expensive than it needs to be. Anyway, uh, yeah, there's quite a lot of razors. Like in hindsight, I wish I would have never gotten rid of my haircut and shave razors because looking back, I think I would have really enjoyed them. I was just a crappy shaver back then, and I really wish I would have held on to some of those because I think today I would have, basically went full circle and would have gotten better shaves with those razors because the reason those razors left was because they didn't shave me that well. Well, it wasn't that they weren't shaving me that well, it was that I sucked at shaving. So I really wish I had just like let stuff set for a while. But early in my wet shaving hobby, I was buying and selling stuff a lot. And a lot of the stuff that I sold, I wish I would have held on to. Lynn, 6306. I'm wondering what are your top three smoothest razors or blade combinations were? Okay. So I don't know that I have three, but I will say that if you're looking for a just obscenely smooth shave, it's got to be the RazorRock Mamba 70. Uh, because it's just a brain dead shave. It is so easy to shave with. It is so mild and forgiving and smooth with practically any blade. Like you'd be hard pressed to put a blade in there that just makes that shave like rough around the edges. The RazorRock Mamba 70 seems to be able to take practically any blade and make it work, but it is just a brain dead shave. It's so boring. Like even for me, like if you really want an autopilot shave where you just straight up don't have to care what's going on and it's going to be fine, get a Mamba 70 because that's the way to go. And as far as like blade combination, I think Gillette menorahs work phenomenally in a RazorRock Mamba 70. I think menorahs are phenomenal in that razor. Again, I don't know if I have three to give you, but I would say a close second would be the Rockwell 6S, depending on the setting that you put it on or what plate you use. I think that is pretty much a brain dead shave, also. Like on setting 4 for me, definitely on setting 2. On both of those, usually I can get just a really close, really smooth shave, and I frankly don't have to think about it at all. Next question is from Titans 1127. Do you find that using the same razor for dozens of shaves in a row and then switching up to try something else yields a few bad shaves due to having to relearn that razor's quirks? Yeah, I think you're pretty much exactly right. I think anytime you develop a shaving habit that sticks with a razor that you've been using for a long time, and then you suddenly shift to another razor, you frankly shouldn't be surprised when it hacks your face up the first few times, or it it leaves razor burn, nicks, cuts, whatever, because your brain and your wrist and your hand is not used to doing this. It's used to dealing with something else that you have developed sort of an autopilot habitual shaving practice with. And I think it's, how do I say this? I think more content creators would be better served not using so many razors so often. Like there's actually relatively few shaving soap, wet shaving content creators who do YouTube who are using the same razor just over and over and over and over again. I can think of like 10 off the top of my head. Everybody else is switching it up. They're using this and that and the other. And I think if you want to ensure success with a shave, you either need to use a different razor every single time so that you don't develop habitual shaving practices, or if you're going to use one razor for 3 4 5 weeks and then switch to another one, then you need to use that same razor for 3 4 5 weeks. I think that's just a necessity to develop good shaving habits because you have to retrain that wrist. You have to retrain your mind. It's not about the razor, it's about how you use it. James Bonades, something like that, 5372, and Rondi Me Bajar, told you I was going to butcher these, 3766, both asked pretty much the same question. Do you have a favorite DE blade and a least favorite? I'm going to do my least favorite first. I think Parker blades are crap. I think Merkur blades are crap. It's fascinating that any blades that are branded the same as the razor that they get sold with, for some reason they seem to be just trash blades. Like I remember Merkur blades being just terrible, tuggy and dull and razor burn. They certainly didn't fit the razor I was using them in. And so that left a lasting impression on me with regard to Parker blades and Merkur blades. Those are just some of the blades that I think are just like Mula blades. Well, I think I got a pack of those a while back. I'm not sure who makes those, but my God, they were terrible. Uh my favorite DE blades, it varies. Like for the longest time I was using Gillette Minoras and I swore by those. I still probably would, but I also think Gillette Silver Blues are damn good blades because those are working quite well for me all of a sudden, and that I didn't expect that. Persona Lab Blues or AccuForge, I think is what they're called now, are also pretty reliable blades that I have used a lot in my hobby, in my wet shaving hobby. Static Grizzly asks, what was the one thing you bought for wet shaving that after you got it, you realized this was a complete waste of time and money? Anything grooming department? It's going to piss some people off, but it's the truth. Yeah, grooming department is, I don't understand what those guys are thinking because they're doing the same thing where it's just like they tend to not make the same soap twice. They're constantly coming out with new stuff. And so if you like something, well, too fucking bad. And then it's overpriced for what it is, and the lather isn't even that good. So yeah, sorry about that, grooming department. I I think insanely expensive razors like Haircut and Shave, Charcoal Goods when they were in business, Wolfman. I no longer understand why you would buy a razor, even carbon shaving. I'm not sure why you would buy a razor that's that expensive when companies like Razor Rock and even Yates are around, and they have something that will give you a good shave, and it's way cheaper. Like it's kind of like I don't care how rich I would be hypothetically. Let's just say I won the lottery and I was a bajillionaire. I would still probably never buy a Ferrari because it's just a waste. Like, why would you do that? Uh, there are certain things in this hobby that it just makes no sense to buy, but people buy it because for whatever reason they crave this sort of shameless luxury. I've got something that you don't. So I think that's the attraction to it. But I think that's the biggest thing that I realized was a complete waste of time and money was just any like insanely expensive razor, like 350, 400, $500. That's a waste. Like let's be real, people. That's nonsense. Fire Cured 1701 says quality versus quantity, versatile versus traditional. Which brings us to the question like what to keep. I think what he's asking is um like if I'm going to get rid of a bunch of stuff, what would I keep? I can tell you right now what I'm going to keep is probably quality and traditional versus quantity and versatile. I I don't I don't want to look in my closet or look on a shelf or look somewhere in my house and just see an uncomfortable amount of shaving stuff. You know, I want to have a puck of soap on my bathroom counter and then maybe a few more in a drawer. And then I don't want to see it anymore for the rest of the day. One of the many things that has kind of soured this hobby for me is the fact that every time I turn around, there is something shaving related on every table, every counter, every closet shelf. It's just it got to where it was just everywhere because I would separate out stuff that is going to be, covered in this video or that video, or it was going to be featured on this shave of the day, or I had something specific I wanted to do with it, and then crap would just end up everywhere. And then even when it was contained, it took up so much damn space that could have been used for something else. Like it just got to where it was a mental challenge to deal with. I'm not afraid to say it. So I would rather have one or two high quality razors than have 12 really cheap ones. And my intent is to have a lot more legacy soaps in my collection than artisan soaps if I keep any at all. So I guess the answer to that would be quality. There would be fewer razors and brushes rather than more. And traditional, meaning a lot of Tobs, a lot of Leah, a lot of Perazzo, and a lot less artisan stuff is where I plan to go with shaving. So it looks like Steve Strunk 9867 and Chuck Widerstrom. I can never decide how to pronounce that. I'm sure he'll remind me in the comment section. 8994 says, if you had to choose just one razor and blade to use all the time, which would it be? So both of you guys asked almost the same question, so I'm going to put them together. So my preferences for blades particularly will probably always change, especially as I use up what's in my collection, because I have like who knows how much blades and I'm just going to use them. So I'm not going to throw them away or give them away to an extent. I'm just going to use what I have, even if I don't think I like it. And who knows, I might stumble onto a set of blades. It's like, oh my God, why have I not used you in a while? So, but right now, I have been using a lot of my Yates titanium America razor with Gillette Silver Blues. Seems to be what is the sweet spot for me right here, right now. Next question is from 1111 RMF. It's an interesting name. Quad 1 RMF asks, do you think you will buy the new Rex razor coming out that will be more on the mild side? I didn't know there was one, so I'll have to keep an eye on that. I do remember when I did a podcast video with Matt Prosarsek, he chewed over the idea of making a Gillette Tech type razor for people who just wanted a mild shave, because he fully understood that most of the razors that Rex was making up to that point were not exactly good for people who needed or wanted a mild shave. If he's announced something recently since that video, it's news to me. Go ahead and put it in the comment section if there's a link or just something that I don't know about, because I would be really interested. If Rex were to make a Gillette Tech type razor, I would be all over that. Even in my mass exodus of crap out of my shave den, I would put money down on that. Without a doubt, I would. T-Rex says, average video comments in a normal Ben shave video a month ago was 5. Comments in Ben's giveaway video in just one day, 26. I know, right? It's like having children. They only talk to you when they want something. But no, seriously, I do believe that there are plenty of people who watch my videos every day and just don't feel the need to leave a comment. That's fine. But in a giveaway video, when there's something to be given away, then it's reasonable that more people are going to speak up. That's just the way it is. He's referring to the giveaway video where these questions came from, by the way. Last question is from Chuck LaChance. He said, why not straight razors? He's like, I've been using straight razors for years. Try it. You'll like it. You'll look grown up. People will think you're cool. Girls will like you. You're not scared, are you? I love how Chuck LaChance is like, ain't scared. Let me tell you something, Chuck LaChance. I'm not sure if that's how your name is pronounced, but I'm going to do it that way. Uh, I actually have used straight razors in the past. I had a Thier's Izzard that I toyed around with and shaved with for a while. I think it was a 6/8. I think so. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it was though. The thing about it was I thought straight razor shaving was okay. It was a good shave. I wouldn't call it phenomenal. It was definitely much different than shaving with a safety razor, but I'm not sure it was different in a good way. I would not say that my experience with shaving with straight razors was better. It was just different. What made me decide this wasn't for me was maintenance of straight razors. I absolutely freaking hated stropping, honing, and all that stuff. I was just not interested in doing that. Like I only got one life to live, and I'm not going to spend it stropping and honing a razor. Like I'm just not going to do that. So, and shavettes, uh, I don't think would work for me because I've been told those are even harder to shave with. So so a straight razor shaving never was a better enough shave to justify really doing it. And then the maintenance of a straight razor was just like, no, I'm not interested. Because what happens if I forget? I'm gonna wake up, in the morning and be like, oh, it's time for a shave, and then pull out my straight razor and it hasn't been properly stropped or honed. And it's just like I don't have time for that shit. Like I just don't have time for it. If you really enjoy straight razor shaving, then by all means knock yourself out. But it never was something that I fully bought into. I always found myself going, I really don't see what all the fuss is about. Yeah, they're good shaves. I actually cut myself fairly rarely in the 25 or 30 times I used it before I finally got over it, but it was just it just wasn't I just didn't think it was that interesting personally. And I'm sorry if that bothers people, but not everybody thinks that straight razor shaving is better. You're gonna look like a badass, no doubt about that. But then there's a question of if you really don't enjoy it, then there's no reason to kid yourself. That's it. That is the questions for today and the Soap Thing project. Soap Thing thoughts. Questions for the Soap Thing from viewers and subscribers. I'm not sure when this video is going up, but I would expect a delay of a few weeks to maybe even a month or two before you see me again. It'll probably be as late as September or even early October, but have no fear, I will be back for those of you who care to put up with me. So that's it. That's the video for today. Questions, comments, put them in the comment section of the video. Otherwise, until next time, this is Soap Thing telling you, as always, shave like you mean it every single time. Thanks for watching.